Welcome to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I'm your host, Darrell Scott, and together we will dive into the lives and careers of the jazz legends who have left a rhythmic imprint on the world. Be prepared to reminisce on the highs and the lows of their musical journey and the trials that sculpted their timeless musical gems. We'll preserve the legacy of these extraordinary maestros and find inspiration in the melodies of their lives. Subscribe now and never miss a beat. Now, let's get to the show. Welcome, everyone. I'm Darrell Scott. You are about to listen to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. Our guest today, I've been playing his music for a long time, and I'll just say that I won't mention the years. We'll go from there. And the one thing I found out is that he has spanned all types of, I'll call them genres, whether it be avant-garde, straight ahead, contemporary. There's a lot. And I want to talk about that to figure out why he made the decision to kind of span all those genres of music. Ladies and gentlemen, this is John Klemmer. John, how are you doing today?
I'm doing beautiful. Nice to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Not a problem, sir. In doing my homework, first of all, I didn't realize you played the saxophone at age 5? How does a 5-year-old play saxophone?
No, I started guitar at 5.
Oh, guitar at 5.
Yeah. And I played for a short time, and being so young, I wanted to go out and play with the kids, so I dropped the guitar. And then after playing guitar, I wanted to be a cartoonist, of all things. And then I wanted to be a puppeteer, a hand puppeteer. And then when I was 11, I started playing the saxophone at 11.
What was it like as an 11-year-old to learn how to play the saxophone? Because I'm sure there are certain things that are more adaptable as you get older, but as a youngster, I guess breathing, the manual dexterity with your fingers. How did you deal with learning that?
You know, I don't remember very much about it. The only thing I remember is that I took to it very naturally, very quickly. Right out of the box, I started playing and everything.
And then at what age were you playing in front of non-relatives? Because we all can all play in front of our relatives. But where did you go out and do like your first show?
About 14 years old, I think I entered some music contests. You know, like amateur contests. Not very many of them, but I did that in front of some people. And I enjoyed it. I liked it.
Were you afraid? Was there a fear factor involved in any of this?
No, it's I'm so lucky. I seem to just take to it all immediately, and it's just like water. Just kept on moving on and moving on. To a higher level and more involved level of music and performance and practicing and learning. And it seemed to come all so naturally, to be honest.
You're a blessed man. So you grew up in Chicago, and even I realized that Chicago had its own sound, so to speak. How did that sound, or how did you incorporate that Chicago sound into what you were doing?
Well, I tell you what, just by, I don't remember ever consciously doing it. I think it just came about by natural osmosis of hearing music, being around it live. I went to a lot of clubs early on. Somehow I have a memory that I guess I appeared to be older than I was, so I could get into a lot of these clubs. that maybe a younger person couldn't, and sitting in and jamming and listening to other musicians. So I think that the Chicago sound, quote unquote, and other sounds, I just came upon it by osmosis. But I never consciously uh, tried to do it. I just was always involved in this natural progression of doing my own thing.
Now, do you remember any of the artists that you sat in with at an early age?
Oh yes, some which have became good friends of mine. Eddie Harris,
Mhm.
saxophone player. I think everybody knows who Eddie Harris is.
Yes.
And let's see, Wilbur Campbell, Jody Christian, a lot of very well-known Chicago guys. Uh, you know, I don't remember all their names anymore, but I was so lucky. All these older fellas in Chicago, uh, mostly in the jazz world, but all in other musical walks of life too. They seem to all kind of like adopt me. They all, I think they all, looking back, I think they all saw how uh, sincere I was and ambitious I was to learn and to music, and also humble and grateful. And so they all kind of like adopted me and constantly teaching me not only things about music, but things about life, helping me to grow up. They were like father figures. And I'm so grateful. They were all so kind to me.
If there was one thing that they taught you that you still remember, what would it be? What would be the most important thing that you learned from these wily veterans?
Humility,
Really?
gratitude, and humility. Grateful, grateful for your own gift of your talent, and humble with it. No cockiness or that kind of thing. Always being grateful and humble with your own talent, and gracious with it, and gracious with other musicians, gracious with other people. That's a big lesson that they taught me.
From those lessons learned, th there's a when I think of the Chicago sound, I think of the Ramsey Lewis, the I want to say, even though he wasn't with them, but Maurice White, who was with Earth, Wind and Fire, that Chicago sound. Was it, I don't, was was there a, what's the word I'm looking for? Was there a challenge to adapt to all of them, yet that style also, or did you always have your own style?
I'll tell you what, I believe I pretty much had my own style looking back. I don't really know why. It wasn't conscious. It was just this natural evolution. You mentioned Ramsey Lewis. When I was 19 years old in 1967, I signed with the only record company in Chicago, Cadet Chess Records, also Cadet Chess Records, and the subsidiary was Cadet Records, the jazz label. And so I knew Ramsey and a lot of the other players and a lot of the other artists that were signed on Chess Records, especially a lot of blues artists, Muddy Waters and all that, that I had a chance to go to their recording sessions and watch them record, and had access to them with their live performances. And so many people that actually Maurice White, the founder of Earth, Wind and Fire, Maurice White was the drummer, the first drummer, I believe, with Ramsey Lewis. And I remember being called for a jazz gig in a small little club somewhere in Chicago, just a one night gig. They needed a jazz saxophone player, and somebody recommended me. And I went there, and Maurice White was on drums. And I remember him and I on the break sitting at a little table. We were having a glass of wine with each other. we had just met, and we're both talking about ourselves and everything. And Maurice White telling me that he wanted to move on from where he was. And he said, I don't want to be a sideman and a jazz, quote unquote, jazz musician for the rest of my life. I've got higher goals happening. And we all know that Maurice created Earth, Wind, and Fire. And when I moved to Los Angeles, he was in Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah.
And we kind of met up for a short period of time. And he was staying in a very swanky motel not far from where my apartment was. And I got caught up with him, and I went to visit him. And he said, John, I can't visit for a long time. I've got a vocal lesson, And I was teasing him about being a singer, like, what are you doing? Da, 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 da. And we all know what Maurice did, and with Earth, Wind, and Fire. And that's a small capsule of the guys that I met in Chicago and tied in with Chess Records and Cadet Records, where I did my first recordings. And I'm trying to remember some other guys. I can't remember them all now, but I also became friends with Minnie Riperton, who was with a concept group that recorded for Cadet Records. I can't remember the name of it now. I'm sure your listeners would know. Her first recordings was with this vocal group. And I was in Chicago. I was in Los Angeles. And of course, being signed to Cadet Records, they always sent me their brand new releases of albums.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the albums that they sent me was this vocal group that Minnie was in. And I, of course, noticed her voice. And I asked the promotion department at Cadet Records an address for Minnie in Chicago. And I wrote her completely by the seat of my pants, and just on instinct, I wrote her a letter and I said, you should come to Los Angeles. I just moved here and there's a lot of opportunity. And Minnie did move to Los Angeles, and we became a little bit friends, her and her husband, Dick Rudolph.
Dick Rudolph, right.
And of course, we all know that Minnie's daughter is Maya Rudolph,
right,
on Saturday Night Live. I held Maya in my arms at a picnic. I went to a picnic with my lady and with Minnie and her husband, and Maya was just a little baby, and they had to get up to go get some food at the picnic or something, and I held Maya in my Rudolph in my arms for a short time.
Nice.
Those are all the great things that came to me from knowing all these people in Chicago.
Okay, let's take a moment to listen to a song that you did from a few years ago. Let's listen to your cover version of I Can't Help It on the Jazz Flyte Podcast with our guest, John Klemmer. Welcome back to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. Yes, that song is familiar, but this one is done by John Klemmer. That's I Can't Help It on the Jazz Flyte Podcast. John, throughout your career, you have been I'll say a trailblazer. You have fit into many different styles of jazz, avant-garde, contemporary jazz, smooth jazz, whatever. Why did you do that? Why did you say, I'm not going to be, let's say, pigeonholed into this category. I'm now going to move to this category. I want to change up a bit. Why did you do that?
Well, again, I think it goes back to this natural process that I had going on in my head that I was born with, I guess, of always wanting to move on and new challenges and keeping things fresh. Uh, that's the main motivation. Uh, I love music and I love to learn and I love new challenges and things like that. And so, and interestingly enough, these changes were not so premeditated. They just happened like a bell. A bell would go off in my head and say, okay, that's it with that genre of music or that style that I was exploring. And it's time to move on, you know. And that's happened to me a number of times. And that's why I've had these changes in genres or styles, if you were, of music.
What was the most challenging of those changes in music that you had? Which was the toughest to learn or toughest to, I'll say, articulate to the listeners?
They, None of the changes were really tough because they were fun. But I would say the most how I can't find the right word. The most important and I guess I could say that the most important change I made was before I made the album Touch, which seemed to be a groundbreaking period of time for me. It was very, very popular, and it created from then on a style of music. And I'll tell you briefly what I was in. I was signed to Impulse Records, and after I left Chess and Cadet Records in Chicago, and I moved to Los Angeles, and I signed with Impulse Records, which was a subsidiary of ABC Records at that time. I was at the Montreux Jazz Festival, and we were recording live. It was called the Impulse Night, Impulse Records Night at the Montreux Jazz Festival in Switzerland. And it was myself and Gato Barbieri and Michael White and some other people. It was recording live, and I was very much into this Coltrane-esque style of improvising and style of music, which was very high energy and lots of notes and a very free form, energetic, intense type of music. And I was recording live. And this is exactly how it happened. It was at a big audience in Switzerland, in the Montreux Jazz Festival, and it was on French TV, and they were recording live as well. And as I was playing, I was having a lot of fun with it. But a bell went off in my head that all of a sudden this voice in my head said, you know, I can't do this music anymore.
Wow.
This style of music. It's time to move on. And it was interesting. I finished the performance, and I walked off stage, and there was the audience standing ovation, and I knew I had to do an encore. And my lady and my producer were standing at the side of the stage. I didn't know I was going to do this, and I said to them, "I'll never play this music again."
Wow.
But not in a derogatory way. Yeah, I wasn't angry or upset about it. It was just happening. And so after that, I came home to Los Angeles, and I was searching for a new direction. So I did one album, sort of an R&B album called Fresh Feathers. Didn't understand the meaning of that title, Fresh Feathers. And I did an R&B album, and back to my Chicago R&B roots somewhat. And it was okay, but it wasn't it. So I took a year off. I didn't record. I didn't perform. I didn't do anything. All I did was stay at home and listen to music and compose and think and read. And the whole theme of that whole year was, for me, what do I really love the most? what do I really love? What do I do the best? And what do I love the best? And that's sort of over the period of a year, reading and thinking and relaxing and all that. And out of that, one morning I was sitting at the piano and writing, and I wrote 4 bars of music. And all of a sudden, I heard the whole concept of the Touch album, all the style of music and everything. And it came like within a couple of minutes. I just sat there at the piano and went, pow. And so that was the most impressive and important change that I went through.
Before, I want to hold you something. Most of the time I put stuff up here just for show. Here's the CD he's talking about. I don't know if the glare will get to you, but that's John Klemmer, and that's Touch. There's some great things on your Touch: Glass Dolphins, Water Wheels, Free Fall Lover, Sleepy Eyes, Body Pulse, Town Row Weaver, Walk With Me, My Love, and Dream. Don't get me, this is really, really good. So I'm glad he brought it up, and I'm glad I had it here. So if you don't have it, you need to get this, okay? That's just me, folks. Let me put this back. First time I've ever done anything like that, just to let you know. I tell you what, let's take another quick minute to listen to some stuff that you have done. Matter of fact, let's listen to Touch on the Jazz Flyte Podcast with our guest, John Klemmer. That was Touch. John just talked about that on the Jazz Flyte Podcast, and this is John Klemmer. John, it's been a few years. What are you working on now? What are you developing? What is on John Klemmer's piano? What are you doing right now?
Well, mostly I've been having fun. I created a series called Jazz on the Patio, John Klemmer, Jazz on the Patio, solo saxophone. So I've been focusing on that lately. Every week, once or twice a week, I record a video of me playing solo saxophone, improvising melodically and everything, all different styles, or whatever comes to my head. That's the fun of it. And then I post it on Facebook and hopefully on Instagram and X and Reddit and all that, but primarily on Facebook. And had a lot of success with it. A lot of people really like it. And so I've been mostly focusing on composing rather than at the keyboard, which I mostly did most of my life. So lately I've been focusing on composing melodically on the saxophone itself. And so you can say that's on my music stand. But I don't write anything down. Every time, the challenge is that every time I go to do this, it's off the cuff, it's improvisation. And the challenge is for me is to come up with something new and fresh every time, melodically and harmonically. And so that's been my main focus. Of course, I'm always doing other stuff in my head at the same time. I'm always playing with ideas and composing another album in my head. And so that's always going on. But, I never know what these things are until they happen to me. It's not so much premeditated. I've spent my whole life focusing on my creativity and my improvisation as a jazz musician, as a saxophone player, and as a composer too. And so I never know what's going to happen until it happens. And that's part of the fun of it that keeps me going and having fun with it. And of course, the feedback from people like yourself and other people has been also inspiring, keeping me going.
So if we follow you on Facebook, we will see these snippets.
Yeah, lots of videos have been recorded already. I think maybe 20 or 25 videos. They're not very long. They're anywhere from a minute and a half to sometimes 5 or 6 minutes. But
So,
a lot of
folks,
people seem to like them.
if you're out there and you want to follow some of what John is doing, I suggest you follow him on Facebook, Instagram, and you can see these little snippets that he does. John, you've been around a
Hmm?
long time. There's been a
Pardon?
lot of, you've been around a long time.
Oh, how long? Don't say.
I'm not going to say. I that's our secret.
There you
Um,
go.
but technology and things have changed. What has been the most monumental change that you've seen and you've dealt with that you've had to adapt to?
Well, just the technology, just generally, uh, you know, all the computer programs and all the different kinds of things you can do with computer programs. A lot of these things that are done with music programs, computer programs now, used to be done very slowly with the recording tape, editing them. It was like a, 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 a an art of a craft of being able to edit the tape and take two pieces of music that are on the tape and edit them together. Now you do it on a computer with a blink of an eye. And so all these other things and the way the music is composed, and I'm trying to keep up with it as much as possible without being swallowed up by it. And it's like anything else in life and in music and in art. It's how you use it. What do you use it for? And that's the biggest challenge that it's been for me with computers and electronic music and technology is like, how can I use it for me? In what areas can I use it for me? And not try to get into what I see a lot of guys do. They get very competitive. They want to be able to do what the other guy does and outdo him and everything. And again, like the whole history of my career has been, it's what do I want to do? What is it for me?
Nice. John, I greatly appreciate the time. This has been a life lesson when it comes to music because, like I said, never mind. I'm not going to talk about length of time that we have known each other or that I have listened to your music. But it's good to get to know you. It's good to talk to you. It's good to see that you're still out there doing your thing and still making your sound. Not somebody else's sound, but making your sound. And I
Thank you.
greatly
Can I make
appreciate it.
one mention that I have
Yes,
a
you
new
can.
CD out called
I was,
Chateau Love?
I was going to say that. What, you got a new CD out?
A brand new CD came out the end of 24, and it's called Chateau Love. And I know, it's sounds silly, but it's really good music. I really love what I did.
Very good. Thank you, John. You've been listening to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I greatly appreciate it. If you like what we do, then I suggest you subscribe, and you'll see that at the end in the credits. But also, it's good to hear we bring you all kinds of jazz and all kinds of jazz people. John Klemmer's just one of them. There are 105 more other people that we have talked to. We'll be back in touch with John in a few months just to see how things are going and what's going on. So once again, thank you, and we'll talk to you next week. I'm Darrell Scott. Thank you again for listening to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. Thank you for tuning in to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I hope you enjoy these stories and soulful melodies that grew through the doors of time. If you want to stay connected with the latest updates and episodes, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. Until next time, I'm Darrell Scott.